huge graveyard was found in France, and among the hundreds of bodies found in the place, 5 bodies caught the attention of the researchers. These people were buried using shackles, and even more disturbing, one of the skeletons was even a child. They were from around 2000 years ago, which placed the finding in the Roman era, and we are going to discover the story behind it. The excavation is located in the city of Saints in France. The tombs found there are part of an extensive necropolis, which is essentially a Roman cemetery complex, which is very close to a Roman amphitheater which was used for gladiatorial fights. A typical Roman necropolis is used for burials and cremations. The intent is to remove cemeteries from the main city, which would have very little space in areas with high population density. So a necropolis is also essentially a large cemetery away from the major city. The name necropolis came from ancient Greek and literally means the city of the dead. But the experts believe that this necropolis was different, and it was used specifically for those who died during executions or gladiatorial combats. And the amphitheater was part of some sort of entertainment complex where executions and gladiatorial fights happen very often, like some sort of a gladiatorial amusement park for the Romans to visit on their days off. Among the hundreds of human remains found there, the archaeologists found a particularly unsettling find. They found 5 skeletons who were wearing iron shackles. 3 of the adult skeletons had the ankles bound by iron chains, while the 4th was shackled by the neck. But what was even more disturbing was that one of these skeletons belonged to a child. The child had a chain attached to his or her wrist. The cause of their death is still not confirmed by the archaeologists, but they suggest that they might be slaves who were forced into gladiatorial fights. Sometimes the Romans sent this kind of prisoners with weapons to defend themselves, but other times they were sent completely unarmed without any chance of survival. Many of these skeletons were buried in pairs, laid out side by side with their heads and toes touching in rectangular pits that remind trenches. These chains and shackles carried by the skeletons show how low was the status of the people buried there, reinforcing the theory of the necropolis being there for the dead from the arena. The amphitheater is the largest and oldest remaining Roman amphitheater in France. On the necropolis, several of the graves were found to be mass burials. The period which people were buried there is from the 1st and 2nd century AD, and corresponds to a time in history when Saints was a thriving Roman town. The city was a regional capital during the period because of its location, where a major road between the city of Lugdunum, nowadays Lyon, was connected to the province of Aquitaine, making the town an important route and center of trade and commerce. The construction of the amphitheater near the necropolis started in the 1st century during the reign of the Emperor Tiberius, and it was completed under the reign of the Emperor Claudius. The amphitheater could hold around 18,000 people, and it was commissioned at the same time as the Necropolis project, reinforcing the evidence that the amphitheater was used for gladiatorial fights. Besides gladiatorial fights, the amphitheater also was used for fights between wild animals. Usually, the ancient Romans were buried with their possessions, but the graves there were almost devoid of artifacts. Only beside the body of one man were several vases found, but nothing more. Another skeleton belonging to a child was found with coins placed over the eyes. This was a common practice during the Roman times. The ancient Romans believed that a river separated the world of the living and the world of the dead, and to cross this river, the dead person's spirit will need to pay a ferryman for safe passage to go to the afterlife. This indicates that at least some of the bodies buried there were from people that the Romans cared for in some regard. The archaeologists are working to discover more about some of the skeletons, how they lived and died. Some of the victims of those bloody performers may still lie buried in this area, condemned to spend their eternity chained. These sites and new discoveries give us a little bit more hindsight on the life of the poor and unlucky among the Romans. If you like to hear news and history about the ancient Romans, stay with us by subscribing to our channel. And to be notified about our upcoming videos, don't forget to hit the bell icon. There is always something new to discover. And if you want to know more about the Roman Empire, click on the video appearing on the screen. Thank you for watching. TB Gratias Pro Video Labo.